There's a moment that happens to everyone who's ever dealt with a toxic person. It's not dramatic. It's not a breakdown. It's when you're sitting alone, replaying a conversation in your head for the 100th time, trying to figure out what you did wrong. And then something shifts. You realize you're asking the wrong question. The question isn't, what did I do? The question is, why am I still here? Here's what most people don't understand about surviving toxic relationships. It's not about being strong. It's about hitting a breaking point your nervous system can't ignore anymore. Psychologists call it the cost-benefit analysis. Your brain does this calculation constantly. Is staying worth what I'm losing? For most people stuck with toxic individuals, that equation stays rigged for way too long. Because toxic people are experts at one thing: making you believe the cost is actually your fault. They gaslight. They manipulate. They rewrite history in real time until you can't trust your own memory. And your brain? It's just trying to survive. Research shows that prolonged exposure to emotional manipulation creates the same stress response as physical danger. Your cortisol spikes. Your sleep fractures. Your immune system weakens. This isn't weakness. This is your body screaming that something is wrong. But here's where it gets interesting. The people who eventually break free share something specific. They stop trying to fix the other person. That sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. Because toxic relationships condition you to believe that if you just explain yourself better, love them harder, adjust your behavior one more time, they'll change. They won't. And the survivors? They figure this out not through wisdom, but through exhaustion. There's actually a psychological term for this: learned helplessness reversal. It's when your brain finally stops believing that your actions can control someone else's behavior. You tried everything. Nothing worked. And that realization, as painful as it is, becomes the key that unlocks the door. Here's what happens next in the brain of someone escaping toxicity. They start establishing boundaries. Not because they read about it in a self-help book, because their nervous system demands it. Neuroscientist Dr. Stephen Porges talks about the polyvagal theory. Your nervous system has a hierarchy of responses: social engagement, fight or flight, shutdown. When you're with a toxic person, you're constantly cycling between fight or flight and shutdown. Your system never gets to rest. Boundaries aren't about being mean. They're about letting your nervous system finally feel safe. And survivors? They become allergic to anything that threatens that safety. They'd rather be alone than anxious. Rather be called difficult than controlled. That's not damage. That's evolution. Now let's talk about what researchers call post-traumatic growth. Because not everyone who survives a toxic person just goes back to normal. Some people transform completely. Psychologist Richard Tedeschi found that roughly half of trauma survivors experience profound positive change. Not despite the trauma. Because of it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Being broken by someone can force you to rebuild yourself in a way you never would have chosen, but desperately needed. You lose your naivety. You gain discernment. You lose your trust in everyone. You gain the ability to recognize who actually deserves it. You lose your old life. You gain the courage to build one that actually fits. This isn't toxic positivity. Growth and pain coexist. You can be traumatized and transformed simultaneously. But here's what separates people who get stuck from people who break free. The ones who escape, they find at least one person who validates their reality. Research is clear on this. You don't need a therapist, though it helps. You just need someone who says, "That's not okay. You're not crazy." That external validation breaks the spell. Because toxic people survive by isolating you, making you believe you're the problem. One voice confirming you're not. That's enough to start the crack. Here's what you need to understand if you're still in it. Your hypervigilance isn't paranoia. It's pattern recognition. Your anxiety isn't irrational. It's information. Your exhaustion isn't laziness. It's your body begging you to stop fighting a battle you can't win. The psychology of surviving toxic people isn't about being unbreakable. It's about recognizing when something is breaking you and choosing yourself anyway. Not loudly, not dramatically, just consistently. Every boundary you set, every time you don't answer that text, every moment you choose peace over proving yourself. That's survival. That's strength. That's your nervous system finally getting to rest. The people who make it out aren't the ones who never got hurt. They're the ones who decided the hurt wasn't worth it anymore. And if you're reading this, already questioning, already tired, already wondering if it's supposed to feel this hard, you're closer than you think. The exit isn't a door. It's a decision, and you've already started making it.